So here now, let me take you through the bullet series now. So this was a PhD topic, and I'm also again extremely I would like to explain to you how this was inspired by a Nokia mobile phone. At that time, the large, you all know mobile phones were the shape of a cordless phone at that time, and this was inspired by Nokia mobile phones. And then, to my biggest surprise, creativity and analogies somehow gives you tremendous amount of features. When we inspired by the mobile phone and we provided the hose coming from the top, there was tremendous amount of convenience for the user. The user who was filling the petrol to you was actually very, very happy because all the load was carried by the pump. Similarly, it was very easy to maintain because the whole design was actually sort of done by way of the whole maintenance. The panels come out, it was a chassis design, the top panel folds, and maintenance is very critical because some petrol pump gets spoiled, they have to go to the field and maintain it. And that is a whole challenge over here. And you can see these two petrol pumps are actually prototypes. By this time, the technology grew up so much that we could build models and prototypes, and the prototypes could be put on field, and it was very well noticed by Bharat Petroleum, and they gave a huge order of taking this product forward. Similarly, again, we had this, very, very user-friendly oval petrol pump. They had great branding. ONGC is like the mother of all oil companies, and this became again, talk of the town. And these pumps they ran for nearly 6 years. But this didn't go from pilot to mass. This remained at pilot. That's why we're not taking the innovation cycle. If in innovation, it's very important that you reach large-scale production, and the user is delighted. The user delight is extremely critical. Then only we can say innovation has happened. Whether it's a nice idea, it's a good idea, it's a creative idea. But if the innovation doesn't reach the market, if the end user and the users all around are not happy and are not delighted by the design, then we can say that it's not innovation. So this, for example, is a great idea and great design, but it's not innovation. So it doesn't go through the serial innovation path. Now then I will again show you the creative ideas which go into building the oval pump. I would like to show you the rendering, the rig, and the final product. And that's very interesting for you to show because rigs become very important in design. Look at the mock-up now, look at the rig, and look at the final product. A working rig is very easy to rig up because you're a petrol pump company and you can rig this up very good. And this is a very important journey for innovation where working rigs are very critical and they help you reach your end product very, very fast. And look at the mock-up. The mock-up also was actually done by using very interesting sort of aspects of vinyl printing, which became very big as advertising banners. You must have seen this Kodak who puts up a girl outside their stores. So we use the same vendor to produce a mock-up where we could show the design to Subir Raha, who is the CEO of the company, and we could take this thing forward. And then, for example, we had the Showfill in 2006. I built a whole large team in Midco. The team was nearly the size of around 20 people to take innovation forward. And by this time, L&T was quite upset. They were not able to come up with new innovations. So they actually sort of sold their company off to Gilbarco, who was an American company. And we kept Gilbarco out of business, out of India for nearly 20 years. It's very unfortunate then that they bought L&T's petrol pump division, and L&T was interested in doing other big things, so they sold off the division. And now this Showfill, which we designed for Midco, was giving tremendous amount of competition to Gilbarco. For 4 years, they were not getting orders. And most of these foreign companies wanted orders in India and our products, because when you design products for the Indian market with the best user insights, with the best manufacturing we have, with the best materials we have here and the technology we have, you don't need to be scared of any international brand. In fact, now it's very unfortunate that after I stopped, working in petrol pump divisions in around 2009, Midco also sold the division to Gilbarco, and now there are only two large international players in the field. But that's very unfortunate. But we are still looking for partners now, because technology doesn't stop. If Gilbarco buys off companies, it's not that some other company will not come up. So we're going to work with another company. And now the biggest thing in petrol pumps is flow metering. You don't need mechanical things to meter. And with flow metering, we're going to come up with our next product, so that again we can give a tough run of money for any international player in this field. So here now, I would like to quickly show you a small sort of design detail of how my PhD for 9 years culminated in a collaborative model. In fact, when I was consulting for McKinsey's, they said, Professor Chakravarti, your model is very simple. I said, yes, your models have to be simple so that people can use the models effectively. So our model is actually as simple as this. Look at this model. You have a core team of people who are actually in the center of the screen. This core team has no other business but to work on innovation. They have only mandated with innovation. And then we have this enterprise-wide cross-functional team, which is the next round. And you can see this next round, you have people from all over the enterprise, from finance, from marketing, from tooling, from manufacturing. And these people are part of your team, and they would spend around 20% of the time on innovation. So they would come to your meetings. And that's exactly what happened in Larsen & Toubro when I was designing the Z-line pump, and with Midco when I was doing the bullet dispenser. So we built this enterprise-wide cross-functional team. And the biggest advantage and creative leap comes with the network external team, which is mostly missing in companies. They don't use the network team effectively, and they actually are very scared that their ideas will go out, but that's completely wrong. We have to build this network team, which is 4 times the size of the core team and the enterprise-wide team, scout for best vendors, scout for best aspects of research, scouts of very good new materials for the projects, and this network team is our creative inspiration, and that is very, very important. So just by these 3 teaming, you can actually put your innovation departments online, and you can make, you can also work on, projects with these 3 teams. And we've been working with National Innovation Foundation, and we're showcasing our products over here. So these are the teams which, keep working and take things forward. Let me quickly show you a small, animation of how these teams work and what happens in the interaction. So for example, the core team, there are very few people, but they're working diligently day and night on the innovation ideas and mock-ups. Then you have the support team, who are more in number because they're all across the enterprise. And then you have the external team, and they are constantly communicating with each other during the work process, and also from point of view of how you can actually take innovation forward. So now I would like to quickly take you through this journey of collaborative teaming, because this collaborative teaming is very, very important. So like in this collaboration, we can see that the compositions are very important. Depending upon your type of work you are in hand, type of project you have in hand, or the type of design you have in hand, you have to build your teams. That's an interesting aspect. For example, your core team has to be built very early. Your enterprise-wide team can be built after your initial concepts are done, and then your final network team can be built while your concepts and mockups are done. So those stages in the development process is very, very important. You can see how the stages are going across along the red tube. We have the concept generation and creation. We have the concept focus and evaluation. We have the concept detailing, where your mockups and prototypes are ready, and your concept refinement and finalization. We are sharing all this document with you, and we will also be very glad to train the people in the company to work on this collaborative model to take innovations forward. So after the composition, what is very, very important is what type of functions they do. In fact, when I did my PhD, the biggest question people were asking was, will your team work without the human angle? The biggest challenge is human resource here. Would you get the right type of human resource to work on these projects? And that is the biggest, today, some of the best companies who are innovative are working a lot on the human resource of getting the best people to work in various domains, because if you don't have the domains, your innovation journey doesn't happen. So these domains are very, very important. Let us see what all the core team does. The core team has to visualize and communicate. They have to capture and nurture ideas. They have to also look at visual representation. This is a very important result of our research. Today, thanks to CAD modeling and renderings, you're very easily able to visually represent your ideas across the board, across external teams, and that becomes very important. You have to actually evaluate and put ideas to work. So that's very important. Evaluating ideas is very, very important, because the biggest problem with evaluating ideas is the people who are in the company don't like ideas which are out of the box. So here you need to have special teams who will evaluate, not the teams who are in the company, but the teams who understand people, understand reasons, understand outside domains very well, who say that no, this is not evaluation which we need to do. We need to evaluate and check out whether it is good for the user. If it's good for the user, it's the best idea, but not whether it is good for manufacturing or whether it's good for taking things to the market. Then another very important aspect is knowledge brokering. Knowledge brokering is, basically, building knowledge domains. Thanks to the internet revolution today, you have so much of content available online. For example, I did a small assignment with my students. We wanted to design a laser-based shaving device. And we said, let us build this whole product. We did the creative ideation. Then we went, after the creative ideation, the students came up with a very interesting device. It said, this is the laser device, where you can just move the laser across your cheek and your shaving is done. And then the technology is in a box. It's connected to a wire, and there's a box, which is the dump. We said, now let us go back to the central library of IIT and see whether we could build the research and the technology needed for this. And to our surprise, a team of 4 students, within a span of 4 days, could talk about all aspects needed for the laser dump, for the laser creation, and for the laser aspects, and they could get all the research papers needed for this work. So again, I would like to reiterate this fact that a lot of times there's so much research, so much knowledge available that we hardly use 1% of that in our innovation journey. So we have to really, tie our shoes and really get to getting the best knowledge available on the research front, because thousands of researchers are working on various aspects. And the biggest challenge, again, in a collaborative network is basically coordination for collaboration. The collaboration has to be coordinated. So you need special network coordinators who will work and coordinate the collaboration. And then these people also have to run creativity workshops. So those are all the functions of the core team, of what all they can do, and depending upon the situation, we need to make these things planned very well. And most of the core team, should be led by a network collaborator or a designer who is very good in networking and take these things forward. Now come to the enterprise-wide cross-functional team. They're looking at feasibility assessment of a product idea. There'll be a lot of negativity, and there'll be a lot of critique which will happen, but the core team knows what to do. The critique has to be taken positively, but not not to dump any idea. So those critiquing becomes very, very important. Then we also have evaluating ideas, which is again a very, very important aspect of design. So when we made mock-up models, our teams, our enterprise-wide team, gave a lot of suggestions to simplify our projects using thermocol models. Then another important aspect is generating ideas across disciplines. For example, in the Z-line pump, it's very interesting that most of our pumps would be actually thrown out of the trucks in remote areas where you need to sort of install the pumps. And when you throw it out of a truck, what happens is it lands on the side and the glass breaks. Out of 10 pumps, at least 5 glasses to break, and it's such a shame. A large company like Larsen & Toubro, the pumps are thrown, and then and my team, the design would say, oh, it's not our fault, they should use a forklift. But where will you get a forklift when you're in a remote area or in a rural area? They just put a tire over there and they just push the pump there. Then we had to work on design ideas. So we designed the packaging like a human figure. The top is narrow, the bottom is big. So anytime you push this pump, it actually falls on the bottom section, which is very strong, and never on the slender section. And that's how we solve this problem of glass breaking. And we also use analogies from car industry, where the glasses are fit by using a rubber gasket, not by nuts and bolts. So with that type of technology inputs and ideas inputs, we could do really, really well. So now coming back to the external network team, I said this is one of the very, very important, team which we need to use for our, design and innovation journey. These, external team also are our users. The users form a very, very important, component of the external team. They also sometimes are very critical with new ideas, because they're the ones who would not let new ideas go. I'll show you a film on the Palki design a little later, and then it was very, very difficult for us to take things forward. And similarly, they also come up with information triggers for creative ideas, and they also are technology representatives. Whenever we're working on new projects, you just send an email to any of the material companies, and they give you the most recent materials they have in their arsenal, and you can come up with lot of interesting new ideas and new materials into your design. And very important, now you all know that when you use new materials, new manufacturing techniques, your costs come down, because your volumes are large and your materials are up to the mark. So this is very, very important, that there's a very interesting combination of high technology reducing the cost. You're seeing that happening in mobile phones, you're seeing that happening in laptops, and that's extremely, extremely common in today's world. And then looking at the manufacturing expertise, your vendors, who are your external network team, give you a lot of support, because sometimes you can't build all your things in the factory itself. You have to use outside resources, and if you bring these very, very early in your design cycle, you can really do very, very well. So now I talked about the functions, and then we also talked about the composition a little earlier, where your core team can be built with various people, and your external team will have various organizations. Your enterprise-wide team will have representative from every department, and with all these three things, you can take things forward in the right way. Let me show you a little bit of a video animation on the stages of the design development and the feedback loop. So you can see how all the stages are very important in the collaborative network. When you do collaboration, it's important that you actually break your idea generation into stages. Without that, it's impossible to work with three teams. That's why you have the stage 1, also where you take user feedback. You have stage 2, also you take user feedback, and your stage 3 where you say user feedback. And the users sometimes always say, we don't want this product at all. It doesn't matter. You need to take user feedback at every stage, and that makes you much, much more humble, much, much more humane to take things forward. And that is a very important aspect. And you can see also in the model how we put the people across in the platforms, where we have the teaming happening very, very effectively in working with the first team, the support team, and the external team working together, coming up with a section on concept generation. Then you have again the 3 teams working together, also deciding the concept focus, and then the concept detailing and taking things forward. So we then we further refined these stages, and we'll show you how we refined the stages while I take you forward in this design journey. Within these 3 decades working on design innovation, we have done a lot of activities. We have done a lot of new things.